You know, when I was making that last video about Cracker Barrel, I said that I was tired of the culture war. The constant, unending outrage machine that takes what goes viral, what's currently the discourse, and tries to convince you to be angry about it, to spend your time, your energy, your attention on something that doesn't actually matter all that much, partially as a method of controlling you, and partially as a way to hide more serious events happening at the same time. After making that video, I told myself I wasn't going to cover that level of stupidity anymore. Sure, it might be financially profitable, it's good for my channel's metrics, and I sure could use the bump right now, but it's also brain rotting. I don't want to contribute to the problem. And so, if in the future there's another story of, say, a restaurant going woke by changing its logo to be bland, I'm probably just gonna ignore that nonsense. At least until I decide to do a longer, more in-depth video on the trend. But while I was putting the finishing touches on that video, the next cycle of the culture war came into view. This September 30th tweet from, once again, libs of TikTok went viral. Wow, kids' show Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous on Netflix is pushing woke garbage on children. Isn't it just supposed to be about dinosaurs? How many of these LGBTQ propaganda shows are there on Netflix? This is exceptionally stupid, even for the culture war. Even though I said I was done, I'm giving myself a freebie pass. If something is so fucking retarded, like beyond your normal levels of retardation, I'm gonna allow myself to dip my toes into the culture war just a little bit, as a treat, you know? Alright, let's watch the video and see what Chaya's got her panties in a twist about this time.
Folks, you need to check this out. We just sent our kids to bed, this Jurassic World was still playing, and we came across this.
You were trying to tell me something before. What? Earlier, in the lift, before the Nothosaurus went all crazy. It seems super important. It was. The truth is, Sammy, I've fallen for you.
Lord have mercy.
Hard. Real hard.
Jurassic World, you know? Jurassic World. Since when did this happen in Jurassic World? I thought it was about dinosaurs. Dinosaurs, guys.
I don't even know when.
Oh my gosh, look at this. Look at this. Jurassic World, guys, protect the kids.
Oh, is that it? It's just a kiss? They didn't even post the most lewd part, guys. They even hold hands in this show. Okay, real talk, there's actually nothing wrong with this. I don't really like the Jurassic Park series, certainly not enough to watch the children's side shows like Camp Cretaceous, so I decided to dig around a bit and see what's going on. This clip is from Season 5, Episode 9, which you can see when the guy pauses playback. Camp Cretaceous has 5 seasons, which were released from 2020 to 2022, and timeline-wise, they take place during the 2015 film Jurassic World. There's also a sequel series called Chaos Theory with 4 seasons, airing during 2024 and 2025, with the same characters, but in-universe, the timeline skips ahead to 2022. I mention all of this because, during the scene where that kiss that triggered the entirety of the online riot happened, these two characters are 14 and 15 years old. In the sequel series, these same characters are 21 and 22. The writers and the actresses confirmed that the relationship was planned from day 1 of the show, and apparently it was built up here and there throughout the preceding 4 seasons of content before the kiss. But I'm not going to go back and watch all that slop just to confirm it. For me, the two questions, is this a good show, and is it an age-appropriate show, are actually pretty distinct. And like I said, I'm not enough of a Jurassic Park fan to autistically figure this out. This is all information that it took me like 5 minutes to get by skimming over fan wikis. But the second question, about age appropriateness, is the one we actually care about today. When I personally first came across this non-controversy, it actually wasn't from libs of TikTok. It was instead from the account of a so-called pardoned J6er named American as Fuck. This is from a children's cartoon on Netflix called Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous. Since when has something like this been considered appropriate for children? Yeah, there's a ton of outrage farmer tweets like this. People who just post a video or a screen cap of the characters smooching and shrieking about how inappropriate the kiss is. By October 1st, Elon Musk was tweeting about the whole thing and calling for Netflix to be cancelled. We can actually trace the path up to Elon pretty easily. Libs of TikTok's whole claim to fame is being one of the most effective outrage farming accounts in the world. It's like I've said in several videos recently, if there is no controversy of the day, manufacture one. And Chaya does not mess around. She does not let any opportunity go to waste. Underneath the first tweet that kicked all this off, a follower of hers posted an AI-generated list of Netflix shows aimed at kids or teens with lesbian, gay, or trans characters. Over the next several days, libs of TikTok would tweet about several of these shows, following the same format for each. She begins with an all-caps exclamation of shock, she then names the show and its offending content, and then she ends with the declaration that Netflix is trying to trans your kids or whatever. One of those tweets, the one about the show Dead End Paranormal Park, caught Elon Musk's attention. Just so we're all in the know again, this is the clip from that show that made Chaya and Elon decide that they should unleash a cancel culture brigade on Netflix.
It's not the park. It's me. I'm trans, Norma. And everyone at school knows, and everyone at home knows. And being here, it's like a whole new place. I can just be Barney, and I can choose if and when I tell people. I've never been happier, and that's saying something when I spent today chased by terrifying zombie mascots. Pugsley reminded me how important it is to live your life without apology. So I think I gotta give living here a shot, don't you?
You don't need my permission.
Yep, that's it. It's just this character saying that he's trans. So here's the thing. Pretty much all of these shows suck. They're cringe, they're not really well written, they feature annoying characters, the animation is pretty subpar in a lot of them. These are not what I would call good quality shows. But once again, we're talking about age appropriateness here. Dead End Paranormal Park might be a dumpster of a show, but it's marketed towards teenagers, not 7-year-olds as Libs of TikTok claims. And you know what? It is entirely age appropriate to neutrally mention the existence of trans people in a show meant for teens. I'm pretty sure a 15 or a 16-year-old can handle the fact that trans people exist. They're not going to get mindfucked by that. In fact, despite the magatard culture warriors screaming about grooming and sexualizing kids and exposing our children to adult content and whatever else, none of the examples that Chaya presented, or any of the others who hopped on this bandwagon, were actually examples of children being sexualized. They're largely just gay or trans characters existing neutrally in the story. The weirdest one of the bunch featured a cross-dressing flamboyant boy, which, while this isn't sexualized, it's certainly over the top, in my opinion, pretty odd. However, a quick internet search revealed that despite the art style, these characters are like 16 and 17. And you know what? I'm sure we all remember that one kid in high school who cross-dressed for a laugh. What I find most interesting, though, is that all of this stuff, pretty much every single example that these culture war grifters have been unearthing as a part of their campaign to boycott Netflix, all of these shows came out between 2020 and 2023. Most of these shows have already ended. There's nothing to actually cancel here, you know what I mean? In fact, I was watching X-Ray Girl's stream on this, and although I disagree with some of her framing of the story, her core claim is ultimately the same as mine. For those of us who have actually been following these stories as they happened, this is all stuff we've already seen, and it really just seems like the large right-wing aggregate accounts are grasping onto these old and dead stories, and just recycling them for a larger audience. Anti-woke channels made fun of Dead End Paranormal Park back when it first came out, because it was shitty. The Jurassic World kiss is also old news. Why are they bringing it up now? Well, as far as I can tell, there's two main reasons. One, like I said last time, is to distract from actual real political events that are unfolding. Back when these shows came out, Biden was in office, and these accounts were tweeting all day, every day about real politics. Biden and the Democrats did a thing, Libs of TikTok disagreed with it, and so she would spend her time talking about what the actual government was doing. But it's 2025 now. The Democrats are entirely out of power. The American government has been shut down for like a week at this point. This is Trump's third total shutdown. What do the right-wing aggregator accounts do when the real political news makes the right look really fucking bad? The answer's obvious. They do culture war nonsense, even if it means retreading old stuff from years ago. The second reason is significantly more straightforward. Libs of TikTok managed to unearth the Dead End Paranormal Park creator calling Charlie Kirk a Nazi. That's it. That's what triggered this whole thing. Now, I've given my take on the Charlie Kirk shooting in several places, but not in a video on my channel before, and a few people have asked me when I'm going to talk about it. In terms of a full video dedicated to the event, probably not for a long time. Like, for example, the Alec Baldwin shooting. I didn't do that until the trial had completed several years after the event, because I like to be thorough when I make a big long video. But if you know me, then you already know what I think about the Charlie Kirk event. I disagreed with Charlie Kirk a lot. He had some pretty stupid views, as well as a few positions that I consider to be immoral. But I don't think that justifies shooting him, and it's absolutely unhinged that blue sky communists were cheering on his death. That was fucking crazy. All that being said, I have absolutely noticed that Charlie Kirk has become the right wing's George Floyd, even more so than Corey Comparator was, the firefighter who got shot at the Trump rally. Though ultimately Kirk had a better moral character than Floyd did, all things considered, both of them died unjustly. Both have become martyrs for their camp and mocked by the other camp. Both are used to justify increasingly erratic and immoral retaliatory action, and there has absolutely been an ongoing campaign to cancel people who don't show enough deference to each martyr. In 2020, leftoids were running around canceling people who made disparaging remarks or even just jokes at George Floyd's expense, like Mike Z from the Skullgirls story, for example. It was a crazy fucking time, just how much random people were willing to bend the knee to this sort of thing. That shit is not okay. But now in 2025, the rightoids are running around doing the same thing to people speaking about Charlie Kirk. Doxing, cancellations, firing, deplatforming, all the same shit is happening, and that is also not okay. It's unhinged to call Charlie Kirk a Nazi, but it's also unhinged to lead a charge against the entirety of Netflix because one creator of a show that is already cancelled called Charlie Kirk a Nazi on Blue Sky. Now, I've got no love for Netflix. I did a video a few years back talking about why I think that they're ass. However, they made two teenage girls kiss in Jurassic World is pretty fucking low on that list of reasons. I don't give a shit if a Netflix show features a gay or a trans character, because gay or trans people exist neutrally in real life, and depicting them existing neutrally in a show is just as appropriate as depicting straight characters existing neutrally. I don't care if a show features a romantic subplot between gay or trans characters, in the same way that I don't care if a show features a romantic subplot between straight characters. Two girls kissing is just as age appropriate as a straight couple kissing. It's not automatically sexualized or whatever just because it's gay. That idea is fucking retarded. No, my problem with Netflix is that they make garbage TV. Not only that, but they suck up licenses for legitimately good shows, and then turn them into garbage. Netflix adaptations are memes for a reason. Nobody liked Netflix Death Note. Nobody liked Netflix Cowboy Bebop. Every time they lay their hands on a property, especially if it's anime, they fuck it up. Netflix's sin is creating bad content, not featuring gay or trans characters. In fact, I'm a millennial, child of the 90s. You know what I grew up watching? Among many other things, Sailor Moon, with its lesbian relationships. Yeah, I know they were localized as cousins, but we all knew what was going on. You think we were stupid? I specifically remember talking to other kids at school, and we all asked each other, they're lesbians, right? Like, we all got it. Anyway, Elon's shift from free speech warrior to cancel pig has been pretty amazing to watch, and he's been leading the cancel Netflix charge ever since libs of TikTok let him know that teenage girl characters are making out in the platform. Tons of people are posting screenshots of their canceled subscriptions, and as a result, Netflix's stock is down again. Of course, there are some grifters out there who want to reap those public good boy points by acting like they're joining the cause and canceling Netflix. This is just too far, guys. When in reality, they've actually canceled Netflix multiple times over the years. Yeah, some of these people claiming they're walking away from Netflix, they make the same fucking claim every time there's a new Netflix controversy, so they can virtue signal about the current thing. This whole story is just so cringy, guys. Like, take this for example. Gandalf says cancel Netflix is just as fucking groan-worthy as Donkey Kong says trans rights. I'll say to this what I said back then. If your movement is so shit, you're resorting to pretending that fictional characters are parroting your slogans, you've got problems. And personally, I do think this whole boycott is having a lot smaller of an impact than Twitter would have you believe. Netflix no longer reports sub numbers, but I do recall a time when it did. And that was back during the Cuties controversy. Yeah, remember that shit from 2020? When Netflix hosted a French film that featured sexualized 11-year-olds? Real life 11-year-olds, by the way, not cartoons. It was a fucked up movie to be sure. A lot of people got rightfully angry, but the rightoids said they were canceling and boycotting Netflix as a result. Fair enough. But how much damage did they do? Well, the Netflix cancellation data was actually public back then, and it showed a spike of around 8 times as many cancellations as normal during the Cuties controversy, but it rapidly died off as the culture war spin cycle moved on. Recently, Jimmy Kimmel got into a bit of Charlie Kirk related controversy as well, and he was cancelled in much the same way. But now that the culture war spin cycle's moved on, and no one's paying attention anymore, he quietly got his show back. By the way, I've got no love for Jimmy Kimmel either. I think he's a painfully unfunny hack, just like the other late night dinosaurs. But the point remains, if temporary outrage towards the current thing in service of your political movement is the only forward momentum your cancel culture attempt has, you will fail. The Hogwarts Legacy boycotters on the left largely failed for this reason too. In reality, the culture that exists underneath the outrage machine has not actually changed. Your average person still generally likes Harry Potter. They have good memories of the movies, and they don't really care about J.K. Rowling's personal views, which is why the Hogwarts boycott was only ever going to be a blip in the radar. In the same vein, it wasn't Jimmy Kimmel's audience, whatever size it is, that was whining about his Charlie Kirk comments. It was people who don't watch him anyway. Libs of TikTok doesn't watch the Jurassic World cartoon, or Dead End Paranormal Park, or whatever else. These people are not the audiences of this stuff. It's one thing when your audience turns on you. It's a separate thing entirely when a third party, who is neither the creator nor the audience, injects itself and begins to demand sweeping changes. It was cringe when leftoids did it to video games back during Gamergate times, and it's cringe now. The truth is, if you don't want your kids watching a completely age-appropriate, non-sexualized scene of two girls kissing, you're a snowflake crybaby, of the same type that I made fun of a decade ago on the left. But whatever. If you don't want that, then don't let your kids watch the show. It's your responsibility to raise your own kids. It's not Netflix's responsibility to adhere strictly to your morality and ban all shows that don't mesh with it. But we all know that it's not really about the outrage itself, right? It's not really about some sort of principled moral objection to this sort of content. If it was, then this cancel culture BS would have rolled out several years ago when these shows were new. Hell, the real ones, the ones who actually cared, walked away from Netflix during the Cuties controversy in 2020. In actuality, the rightoids complaining about this now do not actually care about the quality of any of these shows. They don't care about the fandoms, or the lore, or the viewing experience, or any of that stuff. It's why their own attempts to make their own media suck ass so fucking much. The rightoids do not pay attention to and do not care about pop culture. They only care insofar as it can be used as a vehicle for their messaging, and accordingly, how their enemy uses it as a vehicle for their messaging, which, by the way, is the same subversive and annoying shit the left has been doing this whole time. We all know the leftoids don't care about the properties they wear as a skin suit. Why would it be any different with the rightoids and their fake performative outrage? It almost feels like we've entered this post-human future, where left-wing AIs performatively make a big deal about how inclusive their latest algorithmically generated slop is, while right-wing AIs performatively display outrage at the tamest possible presentation of representation. Except that it's not AI, it's real people who are completely fucking brain broken and ideologically controlled, which means they might as well fucking be AI anyway. At the end of the day, the moral of the story is, there's nothing wrong with this Jurassic World scene because gay people kissing is not inherently more sexual than straight people kissing. If you feel like your kids would be confused by it, it's very easy to solve that problem. Your kid asks you, why are there girls kissing? You say because they're dating, but they're two girls. Doesn't matter. There, done. And if you want your kid to believe that two girls dating is immoral, that's stupid, but fine. It's your call to tell them that. But all of this whining that you now have to actually talk to your kid about this stuff, I just have no sympathy for it. Wider society is under no obligation to be a safe space for you. But beyond that, libs of TikTok and all of these other rightoid grifter aggregators do not actually give a shit about any of this. Their goal is not to raise awareness. It's not even to cancel Netflix, though if they did so, I'm sure they'd be happy. No, their goal is to hijack your attention while the non-culture war side of their political project carries on. Their goal is to get you to waste those precious minutes, hours, days of your finite lifespan, worked up over essentially fucking nothing. It's an insidious 1-2 punch. They manufacture your rage and extract value from it, and then they direct you away from what they actually care about by substituting in this totem, which will be cycled out for the next one in a week or two. All the while in the realm of real politics, everything continues to go to shit. This is the same moral as the Cracker Barrel story from last time, yes. But for me, there's this added layer of incredulity on the top. Old stories about old cartoons that nobody gives a shit about anymore, featuring the tamest content imaginable, when the rightoids themselves, as millennials and sometimes Gen Z, grew up being exposed to even edgier stuff. They're not even bothering to hide how manufactured and fake this all is anymore. We are watching them construct a narrative out of nothing. We know it's constructed. They know we know it's constructed, and yet they still feed it to us. And their supporters on the right swallow it down willingly anyway. Even though everybody involved in this ritual knows nothing here is actually real. It is the ultimate immoral cuckoldry.